So I'm still basically processing what I saw, and in short, I think it was a pretty compelling exhibit. I really did like it, but it was also like oddly depressing, and I'm trying to identify why. Basically, it goes through like the life cycle of one neuron, and specifically it goes through stages such as like birth and then childhood, adolescent, adulthood, death, things like that. And it did remind me of death, but specifically I think what bothered me most about the exhibit is like it kind of confirms this feeling that I already had, that my experiences now were not nearly as intense as my experiences were, in the past. And it's really weird because it is something that I feel, but now I have more or less a definitive explanation of why that is the case. When you're young, your neurons fire a lot more quicker, there's a lot more intensity in their interactions because you're just discovering new stimuli all the time. And then through childhood, through adolescence, you go through these stages of pruning that kind of reduce the need for neurons that aren't exactly necessary anymore. And as a result, how this translated into the exhibit is that when you're younger, there's so much more color, so much vibrant color associated in childhood. But by the time you reach adulthood, things are still vibrant, but not nearly as vibrant. There's not many new connections being formed during that time. You're kind of just going off of these experiences that you already previously formed. And there's nothing exactly wrong with that, but it is just like a natural trend of thing. There is a biological explanation for these feelings that I have, feelings that things are a lot less intense now than they were in the past. And I think it's just deeply unfortunate almost that it is this way, because I still do like intensity, and in order to get these new experiences that you kind of take for granted when you're a child, you have to work a lot harder to get them. The pursuit of novelty is a lot more difficult now than it was in the past, and I don't know, it makes me less optimistic for the future, less optimistic for the potential of these neurons that I have in my brain that define my memories, that define how I experience the world, that they're going to be similarly as intense as they were when I was a child. And by the time you reach the end of the exhibit, it was significantly more dreary, and all of this vibrant color you see in childhood and adolescence, they get replaced by a kind of just bland white background, similar to how it was portrayed in the beginning of life. And it indicates that things just don't fire as much in your brain as you age. They're more concerned about conserving energy, and eventually some sort of chemical imbalance just like rips the neurons apart, and that's just the cycle of life. So in many ways, it's a weird way to look at how our lives move through our neurons, like how we experience the world. We think that all of our experiences are kind of abstract to these biological processes, but the very way we look at the world is very dependent on the fact of how these neurons operate and the life cycles they go through. And I think what this exhibit just kind of showed me, just Life of a Neuron at our tech house, is that our biological and sentimental processes are a lot more linked than I thought, and that the life cycle of our lives is very dependent on these processes themselves. And me as a 24-year-old in New York, I've already experienced the most intense part of my life, which happened in my adolescence. So in conclusion, I just it was kind of eye-opening. It was kind of sad, and I guess I'll figure out in a little bit what kind of takeaway I have from that information.